Hey everybody! So we waited 2 weeks to do this live training and I'm really excited about it. So we're going to give everybody a few minutes to get in. I've got notes today. We're going to talk about 7 general steps you can take to address physical and mental well-being with your teen. I want to preface this by saying that these are very general steps. If you need more specific guidance on these, you can always come to me and ask. But these are all very general, okay? They're very general steps, and some of them I'm going to flesh out a lot of them, but we're going to go through 7 general things you can do. Now, if you've already done, it's kind of unlikely that you've done all 7 of them, but if you've already done all 7 of them and you're still struggling to find support, then reach out to me because there are other areas of need that we can cover. The reason that we're covering this today is because physical and mental health needs usually run the party when we have teenagers. Those are our 2 big issues. Those are the 2 things that cause us the most grief most of the time. But there are also social factors to consider, educational factors, socioeconomic factors. There's just all kinds of things that could be impacting your teen and their behavior. So it's really, really important to rule all of the possibilities out. So that's what we're doing today, is we're going to talk about physical and mental health needs because it's really important to make sure that we are meeting those needs for our teens, because if those needs are not met, then they're not going to be able to do what we need them to do. And ultimately, we need this kiddo to be able to function. And if they don't know, what's going on in terms of their mental health and their physical health, and they're not going to be able to do what they need to do. So our first step is recognizing the importance of physical and mental health. So I just talked about that pretty extensively. But I'm going to define physical and mental health. Okay. So physical health, we're talking nutrition, exercise, sleep. Mental health, we are talking emotional, psychological, and cognitive well-being. So something you need to know about what cognitive well-being means is your kid operating cognitively on the level that they should be? Developmentally, are they the same age in their mindset as they are in numerical age? So that's really important, because if we don't have cognitive well-being, if that kid doesn't have like the executive functioning that we need or whatever, it's going to be a whole lot harder for them to do what we need them to do. So cognitive well-being can also look like neurodivergence, and teaching your kid how to manage neurodivergence. Now that is seriously a whole nother training, and we're not going to jump into neurodivergence today and what that means and the potential for your kid. But what you need to know is if your kid has ADHD, OCD, or autism, they are considered neurodivergent. I'll probably give us some options to do training on neurodivergence if y'all are interested in doing that. So the first step is we have to know what physical and mental health is. I know that feels kind of funny, but we're defining things to make sure that we're all on the same page. So the second step, after you have recognized the importance of these things and you have kind of decided that your kid does need some support, some extra support in those areas, then you're going to have to start figuring out where to go. So usually, one of the very first places families are told to start, whether it's by a doctor or education providers or whatever, is medication. Now, I need you to understand that if a mental health provider, somebody who is trained to prescribe mental health medication to children, now that's very important, okay? We do not need our PCP prescribing mental health medication to our children unless they are trained to do so, okay? So we need to be asking. If you're concerned and you want your kid to do a medication evaluation, then you need to get them in with a specialist, a pediatric specialist, to address their medication needs. Now, medication alone is not going to fix your problem. So I don't need you to hear me say that. The reason this is step 2 is because medication alone is not going to fix your problem. There are lots of other issues that can be causing problems, okay? So if your kid is on medication, Is it helpful? Absolutely. It can totally be a really amazing tool in your toolbox to help your kid, for your kid to be able to do the things they need to do. However, it's not our first line of defense. It is not the only thing that we are doing. And we are monitoring our child if they are on any kind of mental health medication. It's really important for you guys to monitor them and make sure that you're not seeing any major side effects or behavioral changes, because mental health medication, especially with young kids and teenagers, really any child, the side effects can be difficult to see and also difficult to communicate. And sometimes our kids might not even know like that a side effect is happening. So if your kid's on mental health medication, I would strongly encourage you to take that little pamphlet out of their medication the next time and read through it, and sit down with your kid and read through it and explain what it is and how it works and why. And if you don't know, you can message me and I'll help you understand, or you can Google. You can do that. There's lots of information about medications and side effects. So if you think that it's possible for your kid that they're exhibiting some sort of side effect from a medication, talk to your doctor, okay? So the takeaway from this training is going to be that you need to talk to professionals. You need to speak to specialists, doctors, psychiatrists, people who know what they're doing specifically with children. It's very important. You want to have professionals do these things. We don't need to be taking this into our own hands, okay? So then, so we've got mental health medication is our second step. Our third step is going to be to do a biomedical evaluation, and that is a really fancy way of saying we are going to look for genetic, and I had to bold this in my notes, okay? You ready? Neurochemical, there's another word in there I can't say, but genetic and neurochemical issues. So what that means is we need to know what kind, if we're going to put our kid on medicine, we need to know what kind of medicine is going to work. So we use gene testing to do that. Also, if your kid has any kind of underlying physiological biomedical issue, and a biomedical issue basically just means there is something in their body internally not working the way it's supposed to. So it could be pandas, it could be parasitic infection, it could be a thyroid problem. Like there's just so many things that you need to rule out in terms of biomedical issues. And if your kid really, really struggles, it's maybe a good place to start, because that doesn't get recommended a whole lot, because it's really kind of a new area that we are exploring in mental health, and it's not really something that was even available to us a few years ago. So this is actually a really amazing resource. If you've got the resources to do a biomedical evaluation, I would really encourage you to do it, because I have seen it make huge differences in behavioral issues for kids. So biomedical issues are genetic and neurochemical factors. And then when we go through all of that testing, now I've never actually been through a biomedical evaluation. However, I do know that there are lots of different testing requirements for that. And some of them are a little extreme. So just be aware of that and kind of recognize that you might be asked to do things that you might consider odd by a biomedical provider, okay? So, we have step 1, understanding mental health, the importance of physical and mental health. Number 2, we're going to address the use of mental health medication. Number 3, we're going to consider using biomedical intervention or an evaluation just to make sure that we don't have anything going on. And then we have step 4. Step 4 is addressing trauma. You need to understand that if you have a child who has experienced trauma and they have never had specific trauma treatment and they are still experiencing symptoms of PTSD, so hypervigilance, trouble sleeping, trouble eating, flashbacks, nightmares, panic attacks. If they have PTSD, they're never going to make any progress if they don't address that trauma, period. Okay? I don't know how to emphasize that enough, okay? They cannot get better. So what happens is when we experience trauma, our brain literally changes. The chemical makeup of your brain literally changes. So what trauma treatment does is it helps your kid override that change in their brain, and it helps their neurons connect healthily and normally again, as opposed to trying to keep your kid alive, if that makes sense. So we need to, number 4, address trauma. So trauma is super duper important. There are lots of different trauma interventions. I usually recommend EMDR. There's brain spotting. There are other kinds. The reason I recommend EMDR is because it doesn't require a whole lot of talking. And generally, we know that our teenagers don't like to talk. So it's generally a pretty good intervention for them. So just be aware. Once you have addressed the possible need for medication and we've ruled out biomedical issues, then your next job is to rule out trauma. We have to do that. It's really important. If they do have trauma, then we need to treat it. So after we treat trauma and we've done all these other things, then our 5th step is going to be to encourage healthy lifestyle choices. So I know that sounds kind of stupid because, like, duh, of course you're encouraging healthy lifestyle choices. But what I mean by that is, not only are you going to have to encourage your kid to do it, but you're going to have to help make it easy. You're going to have to support them through it. So if you know that your kid struggles with, let's say, depression, and we all know that if a kid struggles with depression, they tend to maybe sleep a whole lot more, or they end up, their eating patterns change, or there's lots of different things that go along with depression. So whenever we are encouraging healthy lifestyle choices for that kid, then we're looking at, okay, what is my child struggling with and what can I support them in doing? So if you know that your kid's struggling with depression and they, for example, struggle to get out of bed in the morning and feed themselves, maybe a good way to address that would be like, okay, hey, I'm noticing that you're kind of depressed. I would really like to support you, and I know it's hard for you to do whatever. Can I help? Okay, can I help? How can I help? But the big areas you're going to be looking for in healthy lifestyle changes, you're also going to want to do research on things that are going to work for your child, okay? Not all of this stuff is going to work for every kid. So you're going to want to address nutrition. So this is another big issue that I have seen. If we have kids, sometimes we have kids that are really, really sensitive to dyes, kids that are sensitive to dairy, kids that are sensitive to gluten, and we just don't know that because they've never been tested. And so if that's something that you might be concerned about, then first of all, they need to be evaluated by a medical professional, and then you can help support them through that with nutritional interventions. It's also important to encourage regular exercise. We all know that it is not healthy for your kid to sleep all day or for them to sit in front of the TV all day. We want them to be outside and they need to move their bodies. Research shows that you need at least 20 minutes of continuous movement a day. So that's walking, running, biking, swimming, whatever, okay? 20 minutes. 20 minutes is really not that long. Yoga, whatever. And if it takes like, hey, I'll do this with you, or you get a friend to do it with them, that works too. So adequate sleep, okay? So nutrition, exercise, adequate sleep, super duper important. If your kid is struggling to sleep, they are going to struggle to function. They're going to struggle to do all the things that they need to be doing. So if you're noticing that they're having trouble sleeping, you need to be asking questions. You don't need to be addressing that with their doctor, okay? And then the last thing that we have in terms of encouraging healthy lifestyles is encouraging healthy ways for your kid to manage stress. So we're going to encourage things like coping skills, meditation, relaxation skills, mindfulness. We're going to encourage them to do things like stay organized. And if we know that school is really stressful for them, go through and help them figure out how they can manage that stress from school. So part of your job as their parent is to make sure that they are being supported as much as they possibly can be. And part of that is going to help them, is helping them learn how to manage stress effectively. That's your job, okay? You've got to do that. If they don't know how to do that, you can teach them. And if you don't know how to do that, I can teach you. And you can holler at me and let me know. So nutrition, exercise, sleep, stress management. Those are the big healthy lifestyle choices that we need to be making, and that first of all, we need to be making those ourselves, okay? I know that's hard, but self-care, we need to be making those choices ourselves and modeling those things for our kid. And we need to be supporting our kid through those healthy lifestyle choices, okay? So that was our step 5. Now we're going to move on to step 6. Step 6 is fostering open communication. Now, I know that this is a physical and mental health training, but open communication is essential to both of those things, okay? If you don't know how to communicate with your kid and they aren't telling you what's going on, we're not going to solve anything. Nothing is going to change. We're not going to get anywhere. So it is essential for your kid to trust you and know that when they come to you with something, that they can tell you anything. They don't need to be worried that you're going to kick them out or that you're not going to love them or whatever. They need to be able to come to you with anything. And if you've never said to your kid, hey, you can tell me anything, you just go ahead and take this as your sign today. They need to know that they can tell you anything. And even if it's something that is scary or hard for you to deal with, you still need to try your very hardest to not be judgmental or use judgy language if we can. But what we want to do is we want your kid to feel like you can handle the big emotional stuff, because then they're going to come to you with the big emotional stuff. They also need to be able to feel like you can handle physical stuff. Something weird's going on physically. You want your kid to feel that your relationship is open enough that they can come to you and say, hey, Mom, I'm having this weird physical issue. Like, can help me figure it out, okay? So open communication is really, really important. And I would even encourage you, if this is something that if the physical and mental health of your kid is something that you're super duper concerned about, I would encourage you to sit down with them and have a conversation about it to really bolster and foster that open communication, because that's going to be really, really helpful, I would think, for both of you. So then the last thing that we've got here is our last step is we're going to not just do one of these things, okay? You need to have all of these things need to be in play at some point. Now, obviously, if it doesn't apply to your kid, you don't have to. It doesn't matter. But the reason we do this, the reason we're addressing this kind of from all different angles, is because our kid is multifaceted, and they are not just their diagnosis. They are not just their physical issues, okay? And we know that about them already. We need them to know that. And we also need to make sure that we are advocating for their treatment comprehensively, not just in one area or another. If you're advocating in one area, you need to be advocating that way in all of the areas of your kid's life. Part of that is making sure that the providers that are working with your child are all working together. So, for example, if your kid has a medication provider and they have a therapist, those two people need to be collaborating and making sure that they are not overlapping, that they are not overstepping, that they are seeing the same things, that they are complementing one another, okay? They're not going to do the same things, but they need to be aware of what the other person is doing, okay? Same deal goes if you've got a kid that's got a biomedical doctor, or you've got a kid that has a trauma therapist, or an executive functioning coach, or a whatever. Like those, everybody that is working with your kid to help them needs to be communicating in some way, shape, form, or fashion. If they are not, then that responsibility falls onto you. So then your job is to know what all of those people are doing with your kid, and you need to be able to know well enough for when a new provider comes in, you need to be able to say, okay, these are the things everybody else are doing. These are the things everybody else has tried and are doing right now with my kid. How are you going to complement this treatment plan? How are you going to help us with the comprehensive health of my kid? Okay. So that was kind of a lot to cram into 20 minutes, but we're going to recap real quick. Okay. So you got 7 steps. Our first step is to recognize the importance of physical and mental health. I think you already got that since you're in this training. Okay. Step 2 is understanding the importance of mental health medication and getting your kid a mental health medication evaluation by a pediatric mental health medication provider. Okay. That's really important. Step 3 is we are going to rule out any biomedical issues. Now, this is optional. This is not an essential thing. It's just really helpful, and I've seen it make a really big difference for families. But I mean, it's not going to make or break anything. Now, a mental health evaluation has the potential to really change things too. And it's really something that I think you always need to address. And so is trauma, which is our fourth step. Okay. So consider biomedical issues as third. And step 4 is addressing trauma. So trauma needs to be addressed specifically by a trauma treatment provider. They need to be able to give you some sort of credentialing that says that they have been trained to do whatever intervention it is that they want to do. If you don't know about it, Google it, or you can call me or message me or whatever, and we'll figure it out together. And then we've got our step 5 is encouraging healthy lifestyle choices. Step 6 is fostering open communication, and step 7 is collaborating with health providers. So encouraging healthy lifestyle choices, we need to be modeling those also. And then fostering open communication, your kid needs to understand that they can come to you with anything and you can handle it. And you need to fake it if you can't, okay? Fake it and then come back and you get the support that you need to be able to deal with it, and then come back to them and support them through it, okay? There are going to be times where your kid tells you stuff and it's going to make you really upset. It's going to be something that you are not okay with, but you need to keep that cool face, okay? In the same way that we do that with little kids when they get hurt, where we're kind of like, we kind of wait to see if they're okay or not. It's kind of like that. But what you want to do is you want to be strong. You want to seem strong, like you can handle this, and you can. Okay, I need you to hear me say that you can handle all this stuff. No matter what your team throws at you, you can handle it. You are capable, and you're strong, and you're able to do all of these things, and you can support your team through this season in their life. Okay, so if y'all have questions or comments or whatever, you can message me. I have got couple more days, I think, to figure out what our poll is going to be next week. If you've got suggestions, you can always message me and let me know. If you have got interest in my 16-week parenting seminar where all of this gets way crazy more detailed, then let me know and I can give you information on that. And if there's any way I can support you this week, please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to talk to you guys on Sunday when I post our poll, and we'll figure out what we're going to do for our next live training. Oh, no, I'm wrong. We're not posting a poll this week because next week we're going to have Miss Dale with us. She's going to be doing a training on gut health and the connection to mental health for us next week. I forgot that I scheduled that. So I will be posting that, and I'll have a live event for that so you guys can sign up to do that too, because that'll be really cool. And Miss Dale is amazing, so it'll be really fun. All right, I'm gonna let y'all go. If you need something, holler at me, let me know. I'd love to support you if I can, okay? I hope y'all have a wonderful day. It's beautiful here, so I hope it's pretty where you are too. Bye.